Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Natasha and I do book things here. Today's video is going to be my contemporary book recommendations. I have 22 books here in color order because I just grabbed them all from my shelves. And yeah, I'm going to talk about them. These are all books that I really liked in the contemporary genre. I'm not really going to go into why you should read them. I think that most people should read most of these. I will mention a little bit about what they're about, just so that you guys can like pique your interest about a couple. Also, I'll mention any trigger warnings for some of them if that's not your jam. But other than that, I'm going to sort of rapid fire recommend to you guys all 22 of these. First one, my favorite road trip book, Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson. Fun, lighthearted, full of like little pictures and stuff when they go on their road trips. I've reread this numerous times just because it's wonderful. It's my absolute favorite summer road trip book. So if you want like a quick, easy, feel-good book, it's this one. Up next, I have Erotic Stories for Punjabi Widows. This book took me totally by surprise. This follows a girl who's teaching English to older widows in her community, and from there they end up writing erotic stories and what sort of follows from that. There's also a mystery element to this. This is such a wonderful book that I don't hear enough people talk about and that I think everyone should read. It's lovely. Next is a sad YA contemporary book that is Morgan Matson's Second Chance Summer. This book, wonderful summer book, however, the main plot of this is that the main character's father is dying. Oh boy, will you cry? Oh, you want to have a good cry? There you go. Completely different route for sure is, this is an erotic thriller. That is The Girl in 6E by A.R. Torr. Its whole trilogy is actually wonderful. This follows a girl who is a webcam sex worker. The only issues is that she has murderous tendencies and cannot leave her apartment for fear that she will kill someone. Fantastic. One of my favorite characters. Really fun to read, easy to read. Is dark though, so do note that there is definitely a darker element if you're not into that. If you're looking for more of a modern day romancy kind of book, one that I really enjoyed is Emergency Contact by Mary H.K. Choi. This book, beautiful. It really focuses on the relationship between two people via text, which is really interesting. There's a lot of like sort of newer millennial kind of terminology in this that even as somebody who's 29 doesn't really get, but like I relate to in a certain way. Really like the characters, and this is a book that I wish it was another 300 pages long to like really see these characters develop. So do suggest. Do you like sexy times? Okay, read The Kiss Quotient. This book follows a main character who is on the autism spectrum. She is really good at her work and stuff, but she doesn't really know how to pursue her own sexuality, so she hires a male escort. This guy, very sexy, wonderfully written sexual scenes in this book. If that's not something you like reading, avoid it, but it is so good. I like the little bit of different things outside of that main plot line as well, like a little bit more about their characters. This was great. One of my favorite adult contemporary books that I've read this year is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Everyone is suggesting this for good reason. It's amazing. This follows a journalist who sort of gets invited into the home of Evelyn Hugo, this older retired movie star, and talks about all of her 7 husbands, what that means. There's a lot of like inner layers, some LGBTQ rep in this as well. Fantastic book. Fantastic book. Really good book. Next is a newer 5-star for me. That is Your Destination is on the Left by Lauren Spieler. This one is a young girl whose family is traveling in an RV caravan kind of style, yet she wants to go to art school, and so what that means for her sort of staying behind, not doing the family adventures. There's some like little bit of family drama, some really fun characters. Also a lot of talks about art as well, which I really enjoyed. This one is more of a lighter one. I would relate this sort of in the same sort of realm as Amy and Roger's Epic Detour, just kind of like not exactly a road trip book, but very similar vibes. So good summer one. Next is one that is kind of a contemporary. I'm gonna put it in the contemporary genre, though this one is really the only one on here that I included that could kind of be a stretch. That is Sourdough by Robin Sloan. This is a little bit of a slightly futuristic, slightly then contemporary, but I'm gonna let it pass because the rest of the elements are mostly contemporary. It's just a really hard book to actually put into a genre. So this follows a lady who stumbles across this sourdough bread that she has to take care of, the sourdough starter, and sort of how that evolves through her life. And it was the most wonderfully weird little book. Is it 100% contemporary? No. Do I give it a pass? Sure do. It's my real fun. I do what I want. Next, if you want a book with a really good friendship group, friendship love, and a little bit of adventure trying to hunt an item down, that is This Adventure Ends by Emma Mills. This book is beautiful inside and out, and follows a really close-knit group of friends and the one main character's sort of adventure to get this piece of art for her friend. Really liked it, really beautiful, and yeah, that's really all I can say about that. It's lovely. Next, if you want more of an adult book with a little bit of Paris countryside action, The Little Paris Bookshop is one of my favorite sort of like romantic flowery writing kind of books. This is by Nina George. This follows a man who has a traveling houseboat with books that he suggests to people for different scenarios in their life. Like he feels like these books can heal them. It's whimsical, it's cute, it's written excellently. It really just kind of like puts you in that like Parisian, like, I don't know, whimsical kind of mind frame. Really cute, beautiful little book, so suggest that. Do you like coworkers who hate each other but then fuck each other? Then I suggest The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. It's a hate to love romance kind of thing, and let me just tell you, there's an elevator scene in this book that just wonderful. You should read it. It's great. Alright, moving into a few darker ones. The first sort of darker, thrillery, kidnapping book that I have here that I really, really enjoyed, that is The Child Finder by Renee Dunfeld. This is sort of like I don't say Arctic, but it's set in winter, follows a young girl who's been kidnapped, and then also the investigator that's trying to find her. I've read a lot of books, similar premise, but this one stands out just because of the young girl's perspective. This is very dark. I will trigger warning for sexual assault, kidnapping, that sort of thing. If that's something that you're sensitive to, avoid. But if you are wanting something darker, this is good. Now, if you want a book that is truly fucked up in like all sense of the words, definitely very graphic, gory, sexual assault, rape, violence, all kinds of stuff, mindfuckery. Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter is easily one of the most screwed up books I've ever read. This is a book that I didn't even want in the same room as me at some point because it was like thrilling. And this is a book that I wish if I could like restart my mind and forget what happened, it would be so that I could reread this one. Because it's wild. Are you in a loving relationship and would like to cry your face off? Well then, I suggest One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This follows a woman who is newly married, her husband is presumed dead, she deals with that, then she finds someone else, is falling in love with him, and then her husband comes back. I cried for like 3 hours in the tub, read it all in one go, read it just in its entirety, but my god, I bawled my face off. So yeah, if you want to cry and feel all the emotions, and also a love triangle in a way that's adult and not stupid, that's a really good one. Do you like small towns and fall festivals and a group of friends called the Hexagon? Alright, read Dress Codes for Small Towns by Courtney Stevens. I talked a lot about this book when I read it, and I still love it. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Just everything about this friend group is wonderful. She's kind of sort of falling in love with her friends, what that means, like platonic love, everything like that. There's also set in a small town, so if you've ever grown up in a small town or currently live there, you'll relate to some of this, like I did, maybe. One of my all-time favorite books, so read that. Cool, thank you. Next is an adult book with a quirky character who you end up just really loving over time. That is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. So this follows Eleanor. She's sort of on the spectrum, I believe, even though I'm not 100% sure if I remember if that's discussed in this book. I'm pretty sure it is. But it just follows her making friends, living on her own, just sort of navigating life and what that means for her. She's just a really interesting, wonderful character. There is also some darkness in this as well when it comes to her relationship with her mother, so note that. Next is the book that I shout from the rooftops that everyone should read. That is Anger is a Gift by Mark Oshiro. Mark is just a wonderful human being. I met him. He's great. Besides the point, his book is phenomenal. Very, very wonderful. If you read and enjoyed The Hate U Give, you will love this. This book needs to be talked about more. This follows Moss Jeffries and sort of in his school that's getting sort of infiltrated by more like police watch, I guess. They're putting in metal detectors and all that stuff, and like police on campus, and just the riots that come from that. And this book made me cry. This book just, oh, so many emotions reading this, and it is an absolute work of art. So yes, please read this. This is a beautiful book. Another book, Wonderful Friendship Groups, Wonderful Parents, a little bit of horrible parents depending on the character. Just a really well-rounded, good contemporary YA book. That is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. Wonderful, wonderful book. Follows main character who listens to this podcast, and she gets invited to do art for this podcast, but she doesn't know who the person is that created it. As it sort of progresses, her mom is one of the most wonderful characters in a book that I've read. It also deals with some hard-hitting issues with her friends and things like that. Wonderful book, just beautiful. May not expect to see an adult literary book in here, but I would classify this as contemporary, but it does move through a couple different time jumps, I guess, like certain time periods. But for the most part, this is contemporary. That is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. It is a big, massive book. Do I think that you should read this for Contemporary-thon? Probably not. If you want to, do it. This book is one of my favorite just sort of adult literary books that I've ever read. It follows a boy who, when he was 13, ended up in a bombing that blew up an art gallery. He then steals a painting, and that follows him throughout his life and what that means with him having stole that painting. It is wonderful. I do strongly suggest the audiobook. It's really, really good. It really helped me like push through it. Not that it necessarily needs it. It's just, I think, with a book of this size, I think an audiobook is a good way to kind of like just get through more pages quickly, is what I mean. Another small town, close-knit friends, and you will cry. That is The Serpent King by Jeff Zentner. Jeff Zentner's writing, wonderful. There's definitely some religious aspects to this, so I was kind of leery going into that because I grew up in sort of a similar, not 100% similar to what's going on in this book, but similar, and so I thought that this was going to just sort of like trigger me in some of that stuff, but it didn't. But yeah, it definitely talks a little bit about religion, again, close-knit friends group, and just since like wonderful little scenes and stuff that happens. You will get connected to the characters and you will cry. So there's that. And then lastly, ending on a very dark note, this is a book that was highly talked about when it came out, and for good reason. That is All of the Ugly and Wonderful Things by Bryn Greenwood. This book follows a young girl through her shitty life, and an older man that comes in and sort of helps guide her. However, it does turn sexual. It's weird. It's fucking weird and kind of gross, but at the same time, never in a book that I've read have I felt more conflicted for wanting a relationship to happen, but then also not, because it's gross. So if you want that sort of messed up confliction in yourself, read this one, but just know that it definitely deals with like a lot of heavy shit, and it's kind of nasty. But that is all of the contemporary books that I recommend to you guys. So yeah, there's some lighter ones, there's some darker ones, there's some sort of little bit more odd ones in here as well, depending on things that you like. But I just went to my shelves and just grabbed a bunch, and these are the ones that I'm sending out into the world as recommendations for contemporary books. If you read any of these and you agree, disagree, suggest other books, whatnot, leave them down in the comments below. I'll be happy to read them. I do hope everyone is doing good and is excited for Contemporary-thon, and yeah, until my next video, I'll talk to all you soon. Bye!